The ink was still wet on the divorce papers when I realized my hand hadn't trembled, not even for a second. 32 years of marriage, a lifetime woven together with promises and pain, dissolved with a single, deliberate sweep of my pen. Across the polished mahogany table in the lawyer's sterile office, Edward sat, his broad shoulders slumped, his hazel eyes rimmed with red. His lips quivered as he whispered, "Eliza, no one will ever love you the way I did." A tear escaped, splashing onto the document between us, blurring the edge of his signature. I forced my gaze to the window, where the city skyline loomed gray and indifferent under a late autumn sky. I couldn't look at him. Not anymore. I told myself I didn't need love, not the kind Edward offered, raw and unguarded, the kind that had once felt like home. What I needed now was security, the kind that came with cold, hard cash. Stability. Freedom from the suffocating weight of his failing dreams. That was the day I walked out of the brownstone we'd shared for decades, its creaky hardwood floors and sunlit kitchen etched into my memory. The place where we danced to old jazz records on quiet Sundays, where I'd sobbed into his chest after losing my mother, where our daughter, Clara, had taken her first steps. I told myself I was stepping into a brighter future, one where I wouldn't have to count pennies or dread the next overdue bill. I told myself I was walking toward Marcus, the man who promised me a life unburdened by struggle, but the truth was, I'd been drifting away from Edward long before that final signature. His construction company, once a thriving enterprise that built half the skyline I now stared at, had been crumbling for years. In the beginning, Edward was a force, tireless, ambitious, the kind of man who could walk into a room and make everyone believe in him. He'd built a life for us, brick by brick, buying me silk dresses I'd never asked for, whisking me away to Paris for our 10th anniversary, holding my hand through every fever and heartbreak. I could still see him in our old bedroom, his calloused hands gently tucking a blanket around me when I caught pneumonia one winter, his voice soft as he read poetry to keep me calm. He'd stay up all night, his fingers laced with mine, whispering that everything would be all right. He'd surprise me with little gifts, a locket with Clara's picture, a bouquet of peonies just because he knew they were my favorite. His love was deep, unyielding, a current that carried us through every storm, but storms don't last forever, and neither did his success. The recession hit, clients vanished, and Edward's confidence eroded with every contract that fell through. The man who once stood tall began to shrink, his voice growing softer, his eyes heavier. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long shadows across our dining room, he sat beside me at the table, his hands clasped tightly as if holding himself together. His voice, worn thin by years of worry, broke the silence. "Eliza," he said, "I know things haven't been what they were. I know I've let you down." His words hung in the air, heavy with regret, and I felt something inside me shift, a crack widening into a chasm. I looked at him, at the lines etched into his face, at the man who'd given me everything and now had nothing left to give. And in that moment, I realized I couldn't stay. Not for love. Not when every day felt like a reminder of what we'd lost. Marcus had appeared like a lifeline, sleek and self-assured, his promises of wealth and ease glinting like polished gold. He was everything Edward no longer was, untouched by failure, brimming with plans for a future that didn't include scraping by. I told myself I wasn't betraying Edward. I was saving myself. But as I walked away from the lawyer's office that day, my heels clicking against the pavement, I couldn't shake the image of Edward's tear-stained face or the weight of the life I'd left behind. Edward's words from that evening still lingered in my mind like a stubborn fog, heavy and unshakable. Our money is dwindling, Eliza. We need to be cautious now. Live simply. His voice, soft and weary, had cracked as he spoke, his hands resting on the chipped oak table where we'd shared countless meals. The words burned in my chest, igniting a quiet fury. Live simply? I couldn't fathom it. The idea of scraping by, of pinching pennies for groceries or mending clothes instead of buying new ones, felt like a betrayal of the life we'd built. I wanted the elegance of our past, the dinners at upscale restaurants, the weekends in wine country, the security of knowing every whim could be indulged. I met his gaze, my eyes cold as steel, and said, I can't live like that, Edward. I want the life we had. I need money. I need comfort. His face crumpled, his hazel eyes glistening with unshed tears. He reached for my hand, his fingers warm and familiar, but I pulled away, the gesture as sharp as a blade. Money isn't everything, Eliza, he pleaded, his voice thick with emotion. Love is enough. Stay with me, and we'll find a way. You'll make me the happiest man alive if you just stay. But my resolve was ironclad. My voice cut through the air, precise and unyielding. I can't. I want more. If you can't give me that, I can't stay. His expression shattered, the lines of his face deepening as if I'd struck him. His voice trembled, barely above a whisper. I stood by you through every storm, Eliza. When you were sick, I held your hand all night. When we lost our baby, I carried your grief with mine. Don't leave me now. But my heart had already slipped away, tethered not to Edward but to Marcus, a man whose wealth gleamed like a beacon in the distance. Marcus, at 70, was unmarried, his fortune built on real estate and investments that seemed immune to the world's chaos. I told myself that leaving Edward wasn't abandonment, it was survival. With Marcus, I could reclaim the life I deserved, one where I'd never have to worry about a dwindling bank account or a future dimmed by struggle. Edward's pleas grew desperate. We built this life together for 32 years, Eliza. I may not have wealth now, but I have love, more than enough for both of us. I stood firm, my voice a quiet blade. Edward, I want a divorce. The next day, he brought the papers, his hands trembling as he set them on the table. The weight of his gaze bore into me, a silent hope flickering in his eyes that I might hesitate, that I might choose him. But I signed without pause, my signature bold and final, the pen scratched louder than his stifled sobs. Tears fell from his eyes, staining the paper, and his voice broke as he whispered, Eliza, no one will love you like I did. You won't find another man who gives you what I gave. I capped the pen, my tone icy. I don't need love, Edward. I need money. I need comfort. He murmured, almost to himself, money won't hold you when you're weak, Eliza. Money won't dry your tears. Only love does that. I turned and walked away, leaving him in the silence of our old home. The echoes of our shared laughter and tears fading behind me, that night. Edward sat alone in the brownstone, the walls steeped in memories of our life together. I could imagine him at the dining table, staring at the empty chair where I used to sit, replaying the moments when my laughter filled the room or when I'd leaned into his embrace during my darkest days. He must have thought of the nights he'd cared for me through fevers, the mornings he'd brought me coffee just the way I liked it, the years we'd weathered together. I lost her, he whispered into the darkness, not because I stopped loving her, but because I lost money. Meanwhile, I was already looking ahead, my mind fixed on Marcus. He was my future, rich, powerful, a man who could restore the life Edward could no longer provide. The next morning, I dressed with meticulous care, choosing a tailored silk dress that hugged my figure. Its deep emerald hue a nod to the sophistication I wanted Marcus to see in me. I adorned myself with the pearl necklace Edward had given me years ago, ironic, perhaps, but it was the finest piece I owned. I applied my makeup with precision, each brushstroke a declaration of my worth, my strength. I told myself, over and over, Marcus will give me what Edward can't. He'll give me comfort, respect, a life without limits. When I met him at his penthouse, the city sprawling beneath us through floor-to-ceiling windows, Marcus greeted me with a smile that was all charm and calculation. "So, Eliza, you're free now," he said, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. "That's good. You can stay with me. We'll see what the future holds." His words lit a spark in me, a fragile hope I clung to. "Marcus," I said softly, "I left Edward because I believe in you. I believe you'll give me the life I need." He didn't meet my eyes, his gaze drifting to the skyline. "You won't need to worry," he replied, his tone casual. "I'll take care of your expenses. We can think about marriage later, maybe in 6 months." I seized those words, holding them like a lifeline. 6 months, I repeated to myself. 6 months, and I'll be his wife. It's not long. I can wait. Did I end the weeks that followed? I felt a rush of triumph. Marcus was generous, his wealth a steady stream that flowed into my life. He paid for designer dresses, spa appointments, even handed me cash for whatever I desired. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman reborn, bold and unshackled. I was brave, I told my reflection. I was wise. I saved my future. Edward was weak, but Marcus is strong. I made the right choice. I flaunted my new life to my friends, my voice bright with confidence. Edward is gone. I'm free now. Marcus understands me. He supports me. He'll marry me soon. Some nodded approvingly. "You did well, Eliza," they said. "You have to think of yourself." But others whispered behind my back, their words sharp as needles. She left her husband of 32 years for money. She traded love for wealth. I brushed them off, telling myself they were envious, that they didn't understand my worth. Yet at night, when the city's hum faded and I lay alone in Marcus's guest room, Edward's voice crept into my thoughts. "Eliza, no one will love you like I do." His broken whisper echoed, and I turned restlessly, muttering, he was weak. But the truth lingered, unbidden. He did love me. Marcus was rich, but did he love me? I pushed the doubt away, burying it beneath the glitter of my new life, but it lingered. A quiet ache in my chest. Marcus continued to provide money for dresses, for dinners, for the lifestyle I'd craved. But I began to notice a shift, subtle at first, like a crack in a polished facade. His smiles grew rarer, his responses curt. Where he once handed me cash with a warm grin, now he did so with a sigh, as if my requests were a burden. I told myself it was nothing, that he was busy, that love would come in time. But the unease grew, a shadow I couldn't outrun. One evening, as we sat in his sleek living room, the city lights casting a cold glow, I summoned the courage to ask, "Marcus, do you love me?" He paused, his eyes flickering over me before settling on some distant point. "I like you, Eliza, he said, his smile thin. You're a good companion. Love is a heavy word. Let time decide. My heart sank, the word companion landing like a stone. I forced a laugh, my voice brittle. Yes, time will decide. I can wait. But inside, something fractured. He hadn't said yes. He hadn't called me his love, his partner. Companion. The word echoed, hollow and cold. Still, I clung to his promise of 6 months, repeating it like a mantra. 6 months, and he'll marry me. It's not long, but the nights grew heavier. Edward's voice haunted me, his words a relentless whisper. Eliza, no one will love you like I do. I saw his face in my dreams, tear-streaked and pleading, and I woke with a start, my hands trembling. He was weak, I told myself, but he loved me. Marcus was rich, but his affection felt transactional, a currency with strings attached. I learned later, through a mutual friend, that Edward was unraveling in silence. He ate alone in our old brownstone, the rooms now too big for one person. He wrote letters he never sent, pouring his heart onto pages I'd never see. Eliza, he wrote, my love for you is unchanged. Even if you never come back, I'll carry you with me until my last breath. His tears stained the paper. But I was too busy parading my new life to notice. Marcus's generosity continued, but the warmth was gone. His phone calls grew infrequent, his attention fleeting. I looked in the mirror one evening, my reflection framed by the opulent bathroom of his penthouse, and asked myself, why do I feel so empty? I have money, comfort, everything I wanted. So why does it feel like something's missing? Edward's face flashed in my mind, his voice soft and broken. Stay with me, Eliza. I'll give you love. I shook my head, shouting at my reflection, no, I don't need him. I don't need love. I need wealth. But my hands shook, betraying the lie. I pressed Marcus again one night, my voice trembling with a mix of hope and desperation. Marcus, you promised me. 6 months, you said. Time's moving fast. Marcus's dismissive words cut deeper than any wound I'd ever known. Yes, we'll talk later, he said, his voice flat and cold, his eyes fixed on the city lights beyond the penthouse window. The indifference in his tone was a blade to my chest, heavy and unrelenting. I wanted to believe him, to cling to the promise of a future together, but the chill in his voice told me what my heart refused to accept. I was losing him, just as I'd lost Edward. That night, lying beside him in his expansive bed, the silk sheets cold against my skin, I whispered into the darkness, do you love me, Marcus? Will you marry me? Or am I just a fleeting guest in your life? He didn't stir, his steady breathing a silent rebuke. He was asleep, oblivious to my quiet desperation. I pressed my hand to my mouth, stifling the sobs that rose, and wiped my tears in the suffocating silence. Each day, I waited for his affection to bloom, convincing myself that patience would yield the love I craved. I stood before the mirror in his opulent bathroom, staring at my reflection framed by gold fixtures, and repeated, he'll see my worth. He'll keep his promise. 6 months, and we'll be married. But the truth was a shadow creeping closer, undeniable and cruel. Marcus's smiles grew rarer, his responses clipped. The warmth that had once drawn me to him was fading, replaced by a distance that left me hollow. His promises, those fleeting words about a future together, were unraveling into vague delays, each one a nail in the coffin of my hopes. Meanwhile, Edward, unbeknownst to me, was fading in the solitude of our old brownstone. Friends whispered that he'd grown frail, his once robust frame diminished, his eyes dulled by grief. Yet his heart, stubborn and steadfast, still held me at its center. At night, alone in the house we'd filled with memories, he murmured to the empty rooms, "If Eliza came back, I'd forgive her. I'd take her hand again, give her peace, love her until my last breath." His words, carried by the wind, never reached me. Lost in the noise of my new life with Marcus. I should have felt secure in Marcus's world, surrounded by luxury, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, the hum of wealth in every corner. But instead, I was restless, a stranger in a gilded cage. He gave me money, yes, crisp bills handed over with a distracted nod, but never the warmth of care. He provided comfort, but it was sterile, devoid of the love I'd once known with Edward. My hands were full of designer bags and sparkling jewelry, but my heart was starving, aching for something I couldn't name. One evening, as we sat in his sleek dining room, the city skyline glittering through the glass, I summoned the courage to ask, "Marcus, do I burden you? Do you even want me here?" He turned to me, his eyes cold as slate, and said, "Stay if you want, Eliza. Leave if you want. It makes no difference to me." The words landed like a blow, shattering the fragile illusion I'd built. I turned away, hiding the tears that burned my eyes, my heart screaming, "I left Edward for this? 32 years of love for a man who doesn't care if I exist?" But I clung to my pride, telling myself he'd change, that his heart would soften. I lied to my friends, my voice bright with false confidence. "Marcus is good to me. We're happy." But the truth gnawed at me. A wound that wouldn't heal. 18 night, when sleep eluded me. I lay in Marcus's guest room. He'd long stopped inviting me to his bed, and whispered to the shadows. Edward's love was heavy, a weight I couldn't bear. Marcus's care is light, but it's empty. My heart knows the truth, but my pride won't let me turn back. I chose this path. I have to stay strong. Yet even as I spoke, I felt the lie crumbling, the weight of my choices pressing down like a stone. The months dragged on, each day heavier than the last. I clung to Marcus's promise of 6 months, holding it like a child clutching a broken toy, willing it to be whole again. But his tone grew colder, his gaze more distant. He handed me money with a sigh, sometimes a frown, his irritation palpable. One night, as we sat in the dim glow of his living room, I couldn't hold back any longer. "Marcus," I said softly, my voice trembling, "do you care for me? Do you love me at all?" He laughed, a sound devoid of warmth, sharp as shattered glass. "Eliza, I told you before, you're a good friend. I enjoy your company, but love? Marriage? Those aren't things I feel." My body shook, my voice cracking as I whispered, "But you promised me. You said 6 months. You said we'd marry." His face hardened, his eyes narrowing. "I never promised you love, Eliza. I said maybe. I said we'd see. And now I've seen, I have no interest in marrying you." My heart stopped, my breath shallow and ragged. "How can you say this?" I cried. "I left my husband for you. I gave up my life for you. Do you understand what you've done to me?" His gaze was ice, his voice cutting. "Don't talk to me about betrayal, Eliza. You betrayed Edward. You left a man who loved you for money, and now you cry about betrayal? You're the betrayer, not me." His words crushed me, each one a hammer to my fragile resolve. I sank to my knees, tears streaming down my face, and begged, "Please, Marcus, don't throw me away. Give me a chance. Don't leave me like this." But he stood, his silhouette towering against the city lights, and pointed to the door. "Get out," he said, his voice like a blade. "Take your things. I don't want you here anymore." My hands trembled as I gathered my belongings, my vision blurred by tears. "Where will I go?" I whispered. "I have no home, no money. Please, Marcus, don't do this." He opened the door wide, his expression unyielding. "Leave now, or I'll call someone to remove you." With a small bag clutched in my shaking hands, I stepped into the dark street, the cold biting at my skin. Neighbors watched from their windows, some with pity, others with judgment, but none offered help. I whispered to myself, Edward was right. No one will love me like he did. And I destroyed it. That night, I had no bed, no food, no shelter. I sat on a park bench, the wind cutting through my thin coat, and buried my face in my hands, crying until my eyes burned. For the first time, I faced the truth. I had traded love for wealth and lost both. Days turned into weeks, and the world turned its back on me. I knocked on friends' doors, but they shut me out. "Eliza, I can't help you," one said, her eyes avoiding mine. "I have my own troubles." Another closed her door slowly, her pity a silent rebuke. Even those who'd once shared my laughter now turned away, their kindness revealed as shallow, tied to the money I no longer had. Hunger became my constant companion, a gnawing ache that mirrored the emptiness in my heart. I tried to sell the pearl necklace Edward had given me, but the pawnbroker sneered, offering a fraction of its worth. "This is real," I pleaded, tears streaming down my face. "It's worth more than that." He turned away, dismissing me. "Everyone sees my weakness," I whispered. "Everyone wants to exploit it." I sought work, humbling myself at sewing shops, my hands trembling as I begged, "Please, I can stitch clothes. Give me a chance." But they shook their heads. "You're too old," one said. "You're too slow," said another. Each rejection made me feel smaller. A shadow of the woman I'd been. A young man approached me one day, his smile too eager. "Give me your savings, Eliza," he said. "I'll start a business with you, make you rich again." Desperate for hope, I handed over the last of my money, the remnants of Marcus's handouts. Weeks later, he was gone, my trust betrayed, my savings stolen. I sank to the pavement, sobbing. "He fooled me," I whispered. "He took the last piece of my life." My body weakened, fever creeping in, hunger a relentless weight. I knocked on a neighbor's door, my voice barely audible. "Please, just a bit of food," I begged. The woman stared at me, her expression cold. "You chose this life, Eliza. You left your husband. Why should we help you now?" The door slammed shut, and I sank to the ground, whispering, "I'm paying for my mistake. Every day, I'm paying." Winter descended, and I had no warm clothes, no shelter. My body shivered, my frame gaunt, my eyes hollow. Strangers passed me on the street, some mocking, others ignoring me. A young boy laughed, his voice cruel. "Old woman, why are you here? You look like a beggar." Tears stung my eyes as I whispered, "I was once respected. Now I'm nothing." Edward's words haunted me, a relentless echo. "Money won't wipe your tears, Eliza. Only love does that." I pressed my hands to my face, my voice breaking. "You were right, Edward. I see it now, but it's too late." The cold seeped into my bones, and I wandered the streets, a ghost of the woman I'd been. I thought of Edward, alone in our old home, his love still burning despite my betrayal. I imagined him writing those unsent letters, his tears staining the pages, and I wept for what I'd thrown away. One night, shivering under a tattered blanket in an alley, I whispered his name into the darkness, a plea and an apology. Edward, I was wrong. I chose wealth over love, and now I have neither. The stars above offered no comfort, and the city's hum drowned out my sorrow. The days blurred into a haze of despair, each one heavier than the last. One afternoon, as I shuffled along the crowded sidewalk, my vision blurred and my legs buckled beneath me. I fainted right there on the cold pavement, the world spinning into darkness. Strangers hurried past, their footsteps echoing like distant thunder, indifferent to the crumpled figure at their feet. When I awoke, hours later, the sun had dipped low, casting long shadows over the street. I was still alone, my body aching from the hard ground, my clothes soiled and torn. My lips moved in a weak whisper, if I die here, no one will even know. No one will care. And yet, in that moment of utter isolation, my thoughts turned inexorably to Edward, the man I'd cast aside. Memories flooded back unbidden, the way he'd held me through endless nights of illness, his strong arms a fortress against the world. How he'd prepared meals with his own hands, feeding me spoonfuls when I was too weak to eat. The gentle way he'd brushed my hair from my forehead, whispering words of comfort. I murmured into the empty air, my voice hoarse and broken, Edward, forgive me. I was blind, cruel. You gave me love, pure and unwavering, and I repaid it with betrayal. One evening, as twilight painted the city in shades of purple and gold, I caught sight of Marcus striding down the avenue. His tailored suit impeccable, his demeanor as aloof as ever. My heart leaped in a mix of hope and desperation. I ran toward him, my frail legs protesting with every step, my voice cracking as I called out, Marcus, please. Help me, just a little money. Don't leave me like this. He paused, his eyes meeting mine with a cold, unrecognizing stare, as if I were a stranger begging on the corner. You're not my problem anymore, Eliza, he said flatly, his words slicing through the air. Leave me alone. Then he turned and walked away, not sparing a backward glance, his figure receding into the crowd. I stood frozen, the weight of his rejection crushing me. My heart whispered, even he won't acknowledge me now. I am truly alone, adrift in a world that has no place for me. My body had wasted away, my once elegant frame now gaunt and fragile, my spirit shattered into fragments. I carried my regret like heavy chains, dragging them through every waking moment, the clink of my mistakes echoing in my mind. Each night, as I huddled in whatever shelter I could find, an alleyway bench, a doorway shielded from the rain, I whispered to the stars, if I had stayed with Edward, I would still be loved, cherished, cared for. But now, I am nothing, a shadow of the woman I was, stripped of dignity and hope. The guilt gnawed at me, relentless and unforgiving, until one crisp morning, my soul could bear it no longer. I rose on trembling legs, the world swaying around me, and murmured, I must see him. I must beg for forgiveness. If he slams the door in my face, I'll accept it as my due. But I can't face the end without trying, without laying my heart bare. Step by painstaking step, I made my way back to the brownstone I had abandoned. The familiar streets now a labyrinth of painful memories. My heart pounded with terror, each beat a question. What if he rejects me? What if he's moved on, his love turned to ashes by my betrayal? Tears streamed down my cheeks as I approached the door, its faded paint a testament to the years that had passed. I raised a shaking hand and knocked, the sound feeble against the wood. The door creaked open slowly, and there stood Edward. His hair had turned fully gray, his face etched with deeper lines of sorrow and time, his eyes weary but still holding that spark of kindness I remembered so well. He stared at me for a long, silent moment, his expression unreadable. Then, his eyes filled with tears, mirroring my OWN.my voice broke as I spoke, the words tumbling out in a rush. Edward, it's me. I'm so sorry. I was wrong, terribly, unforgivably wrong. I left you when you needed me most, destroyed our marriage, destroyed you. Forgive me if you can. If you can't, I'll go, disappear from your life forever. But I had to come. I had to say it, to beg for your mercy. My knees buckled, and I collapsed to the floor, sobs racking my body. I lost everything, Edward. Marcus used me like a toy, discarded me when I no longer amused him. Friends turned their backs, doors slammed in my face. People cheated me, stole what little I had left. I have no money, no home, no shred of respect. But the deepest loss, the sharpest pain, was losing you, losing your love, the one true thing in my life. Edward knelt beside me, his movements gentle despite his age, and lifted me into his arms. His tears fell warm onto my face as he whispered, "Eliza, my love was real, strong, unbreakable. It never died, not even when you walked away. Even in my darkest hours, when betrayal cut deepest, my heart prayed for you, wished for your safety and happiness." I covered my face with my hands, crying harder, the sobs shaking my frail frame. How can you forgive me, Edward? How can you still love me after what I did, after I shattered everything we built? He took my hand in his grip warm and steady, his voice soft but resolute. Because love isn't a transaction, Eliza. It's not a business deal to be bartered or abandoned. Love is sacrifice, patience, a force that remembers the joy, the shared laughter, the quiet moments, not the pain of betrayal. My suffering was profound, but my love ran deeper, a river that never ran dry. I never stopped loving you, not for a single day. I rested my head against his chest, the familiar rhythm of his heartbeat a balm to my weary soul, and sobbed like a child rediscovering home. If you take me back, Edward, I swear I'll never leave again. I won't ask for wealth or gold or luxury. I'll only ask for your hand, your companionship, your love. Through his tears, a small smile broke across his face, lighting his eyes with a warmth I thought I'd lost forever. Then stand with me now, Eliza. We may be older, our bodies marked by time, but our hearts are still vibrant, still capable of healing. We may not have riches or grandeur, but we have each other, and that's more than enough. I whispered back, my voice trembling with gratitude, "Yes, Edward. This time, I understand. This time, I won't repeat my mistakes. Love is the only treasure that endures." We held each other for what felt like hours, the world outside fading into irrelevance. Our wrinkles spoke of the years we'd endured, the trials we'd faced, but our tears revealed the depth of our renewed love, a bond forged stronger in the fires of forgiveness. Edward whispered against my hair, "We lost so many years, Eliza, years we can't reclaim. But we still have today, and tomorrow, and however many days fate grants us. Today is enough." I held him tighter, my heart finally at peace, and replied, "Yes, Edward. Today is enough. Love is enough." In that embrace, surrounded by the familiar walls of our old home, the creaking floors, the sunlit windows, the echoes of our past, I knew the truth with crystalline clarity: money fades, beauty withers, comfort is fleeting. But true love, patient, forgiving, enduring, remains eternal. It weathers storms, bridges chasms, and redeems even the gravest errors. We all face hardships, moments of doubt and regret, but stories like this remind us that redemption is possible, that love can heal the deepest wounds. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May it inspire you to cherish what truly matters. Come back for more tales of the heart, where real moments unfold and lessons linger.